Thanks for joining us. And today we're going to talk about enlightenment in Kriya Yoga. So in Kriya Yoga, they often use the Patanjali Yoga Sutra's progression of states of awareness from the most basic state moving up to the most enlightened state, if you will. And so in Kriya Yoga, we're using Patanjali's Yoga Sutras to help us move from the yama niyama, which is basically the do's and don'ts, any kind of moral tenets that we have on how to behave in regular life, and then moving into asana, which is a sort of a sitting practice for meditation. And then we start to use pranayama techniques, some kind of intentional breathing, internalization type of meditation. From that, we start to go into pratyahara, which is an internalized state. And from there, we move into the Dharana, which is a state of concentration once we've become internalized, which is often talked about as sort of being in a void. And then we get into Dhyana, which means meditation. It's more of an absorbed kind of meditation, an internalized state where we become absorbed in our inner experience. And from there, moving into Samadhi, and Samadhi being this sort of superconscious awareness, and that enlightenment would unfold from that superconscious awareness state. Now, within Samadhi itself, it's also been subdivided into a variety of states, which includes something called Samprajnata Samadhi, which is Samadhi with difference, meaning an internalized, expansive state, a oneness with things, but you're very much confined to being in a still meditation state, to a Samprajnata Samadhi, where there is no distinction between yourself and what you're absorbed in. And then also one of the other terms that is commonly used is nirvikalpa samadhi. So a samadhi, a superconscious experience that you're having regardless of what you're doing. So either you're in a meditation or you're not in meditation. You're having this expansive awareness state where you are aware that you are one with everything around you, and you have this superconscious awareness. So in Kriya Yoga, enlightenment is very much seen in those terms. And certainly the advantage of Kriya Yoga is a very effective means for going internal, for getting into Pratyahara, this internalized state. And then things that unfold from there, you're poised ideally for internal experiences, which is what you want in meditation. You're using some kind of internalized experience to unfold aspects of yourself, right? To do some internal transformation, to progress spiritually, and so on. So the challenge with the Kriya Yoga methodology is often there's something that is missed. And one thing that I often say is that your state of consciousness is dependent on your internal transformation, right? This process of internal transformation. And consequently, you get into a different state of consciousness. Now, the challenge with Kriya Yoga and other kind of yogic paths is they chase states of awareness, states of consciousness. They want the coveted samadhi, right? So I've had many people on my channel ask me, how do I get into samadhi? Just tell me the steps to get into samadhi. And I always say it's not that simple. You need to go through a process of getting internalized, but there are many things that need to unfold within before you're able to get into these superconscious states. But getting into those states is not what the most important thing is. What you want is internal transformation, right? Internal transformation will yield these states of consciousness because things are happening within you, and things that are happening within you, these internal transformations, are connected with other things around you, right? So the energy field, if you will, around you. And that's when I get into talking about sort of the web of life, if you will. So there can be a bias within Kriya Yoga and other yogic paths that they become very self-centered, meaning very focused on self-development, right? How do I attain samadhi? And at Modern Kriya, our website, modernkriya.com, we're informed by a Taoist internal alchemy approach. And it's very much from a Taoist internal alchemy approach, the idea about a interconnecting web between ourselves, others, and with the divine, right? So we're part of this web. And certainly if you look at people who are very developed in Kriya Yoga, they talk about being connected, right? So Lahiri Baba will often talk about connections with the divine, through his experience. He has become, he's become Krishna, he's become Brahma. He has absorbed himself with those concepts of the divine and become connected through this interconnecting web, right, if you will. Now, when we look at this sort of web of life from a Taoist internal alchemy perspective, we talk about that we are connected with this greater energy field that is alive and conscious. It isn't an object to be manipulated. It is a field that we are part of, the field of life, the web of life, that we develop communication skills, if you will, energetic communication skills to communicate and interact with, right? And when you look at things in that way, you can see that just focusing on the self and the states of consciousness is not going to make the transformation happen, the internal transformation. You're a result of a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of factors. The experiences you had, as a child growing up, etc., what's in your bloodline, right? The sort of propensities for, your genetic makeup, etc., the influences of your parents, your kin group, your local community, your culture, all of those things impact the way that you respond to the greater field, if you will, both what's inside of you, your own energetic configuration, and the larger energetic configuration around you. The chi field is what we call it, right? We talk about this field that we're connected with. And when we want to engage in a process of inner transformation with the goal of getting enlightened, there can be a variety of levels at which we become enlightened. And in Taoist internal alchemy, we talk about this sort of lesser, greater, and greatest enlightenment, which is connected with something in Taoist internal alchemy called Kan and Li, which means water and fire. Now, one of the main methodologies of Taoist internal alchemy is that we start to develop the inner awareness for the subtle energy within us, right? And we start to be able to connect and become aware of these different fields within us, these different energetic pathways, similar to what you do with, the Sushumna in Kriya Yoga, where you're connecting into the spinal pathway, right? But there are many more pathways, energetic pathways that we explore in Taoist internal alchemy. I've talked about in the microcosmic orbit, running up the back basically from the perineum to the crown, and then down from the crown to the perineum as being an orbit, a perpetual orbit that we can begin to explore energetically through practices, right? Microcosmic orbit meditation is one of those. So you're not just going up, you're also going down, and you create this balanced flow of energy. So once you develop your capacity to become aware of the energies inside of you, and you start to become aware of how you might engage with them in a synthesis of different types of energy, especially their polarized aspects of energy, there are things that happen within, inner transformations that start to yield from the practices. And I talk about the 6 healing sounds as a way to start to clear out energetic blockages, if you will, energetic baggage within, right? When we start to engage in practices like the fusion of the 5 elements, we're specifically targeting energetic blockages within that we help to resolve and integrate through an alchemical process. And what happens is we start to experience like a lesser enlightenment, if you will, meaning that we come to terms with blocked energy within us and we have a mini realization. Things shift, the energetic field within us shifts, and a issue that we may have had that has been impacting our behavior and our ability to function in a effective way is resolved instantly energetically. So it is like having the light bulb going on and you have this realization, right? So you might have a perception of that, but energetically there has been a shift within, right? So that is sort of a form of what we call lesser enlightenment. And in Taoist internal alchemy, we used a Kan and Li process to begin that and going to unfold its successive layers. So anyway, what I'm trying to say with this is that the idea about enlightenment can often be very one-sided in Kriya Yoga. You're trying to chase after a state, right? A state of Samadhi, of superconscious awareness, and not being aware of the intermediary steps within that where you need to basically resolve a whole bunch of things along the way. So at the personality level, is your personality completely grounded? Are there unresolved issues in your personality, in your relationships with others? Well, if not, then it's likely you have more work to do, and no amount of trying to get into Samadhi is going to solve that. You need to tackle the issues. But to do that, you need to have the tools and the skills that you've developed from those tools to do that. And that's what we offer at Modern Kriya. We bring the Kriya Yoga practices, right, to how to get into very deep states of meditation, and also the transformative practices of Taoist internal alchemy as a perfect synthesis so that you have these tools at your fingertips. You can develop skills for processing your energy energy internally, and then you start to have these successive levels of enlightenment, if you will. It's an unfolding of transformation within you. And from that unfolding of transformation within you, your state of consciousness shifts. You become aware of things that you were not before because you're operating in successively deeper levels. So if you have the idea that you have to do a million Kriya, and then by doing a million Kriya, it's going to solve all your problems and you'll be enlightened, well, you're in for a shock because it does not happen like that at all, right? Certainly you can get internalized with Kriya Yoga, but you need to do the inner work. So if you have any questions about this video, feel free to send me an email at info@modernkriya.com. Also check our website at modernkriya.com and our YouTube channel. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.